Guys, what is going on? This is Wrestlelamia, back with another episode. It's time for a holiday edition of Dynamite as AEW holds its Winter Bash special. Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at the 22nd December edition of Dynamite, as well as the latest wrestling news, including more COVID woes in WWE, AEW kicks out fan, 80s WWE star passes away, and more. As always, Wrestlelamia won't recap the matches, but look at the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. The good. It's CM Punk! Tonight's main event between the team of Sting, Darby Allin, and CM Punk versus the Pinnacles, FTR, and MJF was a masterpiece, and another reminder of what makes AEW's booking stand out. It also featured some fun, as CM Punk wore face paint, emulating the Stinger and shouting Sting's trademark howl during his entrance. Sting got in on the mutual respect as well, incorporating Punk's taped fists into his makeup design. The match was about more than a love fest, as it showcased all 6 wrestlers' talent, including an incredible high spot from Sting, where the 62-year-old wrestler hit a flying crossbody onto FTR and MJF outside the ring. MJF runs for his life. Winter Bash's main event was all the better due to AEW's booking of MJF vs. CM Punk. While the two men finally got into the same ring today to wrestle, MJF did everything in his power to keep away from CM Punk. AEW deserves credit for letting things play out the way it did rather than copping out by having MJF substitute his bodyguard Wardlow into the match. MJF's Pinnacle teammate even took the proverbial bullet for the salt of the earth when it looked like Punk was finally going to get his hands on MJF and hit the GTS. Instead, Dax Harwood knocked MJF from the ring, saving him and taking the GTS. MJF's subsequent retreat from the ring and comments in the announce booth that Punk was running from him like a scalded dog was the perfect finish for MJF's dynamic display of cowardice. No phoning it in. Christmas episodes of wrestling traditionally fare poorly in the ratings, with promoters often booking said shows with filler and even best-of shows. Not tonight, as AEW's Holiday Bash seemed like another strong episode of Dynamite. While Dynamite's ratings will likely go down this week compared to last week, it's refreshing to see AEW putting on a solid show for the fans who do tune in. Dr. Britt is brilliant. Fans know Dr. Britt Baker is magnificent in the ring, but tonight's backstage segment with the current AEW Women's World Champion and her entourage was another reminder of how good Baker is on the microphone, and that she has a flair for being funny, as do her flunkies Jamie Hayter and Rebel. The sight of the ever-infatuated Tony Schiavone trying to put some mistletoe over Baker's head, only for Hayter to whack it away, was hilarious, as was Baker's entitled opinion on perennial foe Riho. Undisputed Era versus Elite? Is AEW already setting things up for a feud between the Undisputed Era and the Elite? AEW had already set the stage for Adam Cole trying to move in on Kenny Omega, who recently took a sabbatical, as the Elite's leader, but the arrival of Cole's NXT partners in crime Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly suggests that Cole might be thinking even bigger. AEW kept things murky as to how the Young Bucks feel about Cole's friends, but it appears there's tension building. This could turn into an exciting program and provide a way for the Jackson brothers to turn babyface. Feeding the Monster. Tonight's squash match between Malachi Black and Griff Garrison, not to mention Black's post-match beatdown on Brian Pillman, was an excellent example of how you keep a monster heel strong by throwing him the occasional sacrifice. Black looked dominant, as he should look, against Garrison, leaving fans to wonder if anyone can stop Malachi the Monster. Guerrero is good. Tonight's match between Ruby Soho and Nyla Rose served to show how effective a good manager can be in adding to a match's heat. In case you missed it, the Native Beasts manager knocked Soho off the top rope during a key moment in their TBS Championship Tournament semifinal bout, putting Soho into real jeopardy. Rose is dominant enough that she doesn't need a manager to interfere, which only makes it more aggravating when Vicky lends a helping hand. Vicky Guerrero has made good use of her experience in the grappling game, becoming an effective heel manager and adding even more heat to Rose's act. The bad. Pillman stumbles. Wrestlelamia is starting to wonder why Brian Pillman Jr. is on Dynamite so often, as he looked like a stumble bum after his tag team partner Griff Garrison's loss to Malachi Black. Pillman entered the ring to force Black to break a submission hold when he refused to release Garrison. Unfortunately, Pillman stumbled when he went through the ropes and did an equally poor job taking a Black Mass kick from Black. Hopefully, Pillman isn't having any health issues, as his growing girth suggests his nickname should be Frying Brian. Uneven TBS tournament match. Tonight's semifinal fight for the TBS Championship was an uneven event, with Nyla Rose and Ruby Soho working well at times and somewhat sloppy at others. Rose has also had trouble working with faster opponents, and it showed again in tonight's match. AEW is clearly behind Ruby Soho, but after watching her tonight, Wrestlelamia thinks AEW needs to seriously evaluate whether Soho deserves to win the TBS Championship. Too many title shots? AEW has done a good job of maintaining its World Championship as a prestigious belt that has many worthy challengers. So why is Bryan Danielson getting another title shot? Not only did Bryan come up short against Hangman Adam Page in their 60-minute Broadway at Winter is Coming, but he also failed to defeat then-champion Kenny Omega during their TV match. AEW obviously wants to hype Dynamite's 5th January debut on TBS with a huge match, not to mention one that will feature judges in the event of a draw. But too many title shots could diminish the belt's prestige. There are better ways to book Page versus Danielson than this, and WrestleLamia hopes AEW isn't starting to hotshot its shows. The Downright Ugly. Another excellent episode of Dynamite as AEW put on a fun holiday show that continued storylines, put on exciting matches, and had AEW's usual array of interviews and segments, including what looks to be an interesting setup for a budding program between Dan Lambert and Cody Rhodes to build up future matches. AEW wisely didn't try to follow up its annual Winter is Coming episode, but certainly didn't phone it in either, making tonight's show worth the time to watch it. News. More COVID-19 results in WWE? Topping today's news is an update on the recent positive COVID-19 test results in the WWE amongst wrestlers and staff. PW Insider is reporting that additional people have tested positive as of 22nd December, but as of now, the WWE intends to continue with its upcoming live events. However, there could be a change in who wrestles, as PW Insider's Mike Johnson reports, in the event a talent isn't able to perform this weekend, WWE would work on alternative lineups for the live events. One source noted that in a worst-case scenario, they could always fill undercard slots with NXT talents if necessary. As for Day 1, Johnson added, "The hope is that even if the talents are unable to perform on the holiday tour events, the WWE Day 1 pay-per-view is far enough away that anyone that does test positive will be cleared to perform by 1/1/22, as that show is currently 10 days away." Wrestlelamia will continue following this story. Alleged fan kicked out of Dynamite. Looks like an alleged wrestling fan wasted a lot of money to buy a ringside seat to the 22nd December Dynamite, only to get kicked out after he flashed a transphobic sign at AEW wrestler Nyla Rose. Fightful Select's Sean Ross Sapp tweeted some information on the situation. "I'm told the fan at AEW Dynamite with the shitty signs was removed. Twitter user WrestleVoice1 claims to have been at the show and tweeted, 'He was removed. They had to track him down, but when they got him, he was emphatically removed from the building.'" Nyla Rose reportedly flipped off the person with the sign. Rose's wife later tweeted her support for Rose. "My wife is the strongest person I know." She also thanked security for their efforts. "The security team at AEW is absolutely amazing. The guy was escorted out. Just because it wasn't fast enough for some of you doesn't mean they didn't do their job. Their first priority is to protect the talent that is actively performing." It'll be interesting to see if AEW bans the alleged fan from future events. Roman Reigns talks making Aquaman franchise better. Is there anything current Universal Champion Roman Reigns can't do? Apparently not as far as the Tribal Chief is concerned, as he recently addressed some comments about his riveting resemblance to Aquaman and Game of Thrones star Jason Momoa. Ringside News' Subhajit Mukherjee had a hilarious report on an interaction between Reigns and a fan at a live event. During a recent WWE house show, a fan said that they loved Roman Reigns and Aquaman. Reigns then told the fan the film would have made more money had he been in it instead of Jason Momoa. The head of the table is no stranger to Hollywood, as he had a small part in the film Hobbs and Shaw alongside his cousin Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Reigns has talked about wanting to venture into Hollywood after his wrestling career ends, so if Momoa bows out of any future Aquaman films, Reigns could have an instant in. Kyle O'Reilly is all elite. Fans wondering what's next for Kyle O'Reilly found out on the 22nd December Dynamite, as Kyle O'Reilly showed up to help former Undisputed Era teammates Adam Cole and Bobby Fish. O'Reilly, whose NXT contract recently expired, recently tweeted, "Life is crazy, and I'm very grateful that my professional wrestling abilities have taken me to a new frontier in which to explore my ass-kicking ways. Proud to be part of AEW, and thanks to Tony Khan for the opportunity. If you're a fan of mine from elsewhere, I hope you continue to support me. If you're new to KOR, prepare to see a man that pours his effing soul into that ring every night and has an unquenchable thirst for cans of whoop ass." O'Reilly also tweeted a hint of what AEW fans might see soon. Also, Red Dragon is back. In case you're wondering, Red Dragon refers to O'Reilly's past team with Bobby Fish. As noted in our previous analysis of Dynamite, it looks like AEW could be setting up a feud between the Elite and the former members of the Undisputed Era. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. 80s WWE superstar passes. Last but not least, Wrestlelamia is sad to report the death of former WWE superstar Corporal Kirshner, aka Michael James Penzel. In 1985, the WWF used Penzel's legitimate background as a paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne to build him into the patriotic character Corporal Kirshner. The WWF hoped to recapture the magic of Sergeant Slaughter, who left the WWF in 1984, booking Kirshner into a feud with Nikolai Volkov. Kirshner couldn't get the same reaction from the fans and eventually left in 1987, reprising his Kirshner character in smaller promotions. Penzel struck gold in Japan, where he adopted the character Leatherface, taking inspiration from the villain in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films. After retiring from the ring, Penzel's name resurfaced when WWE.com erroneously announced Kirshner had died. Penzel spent his post-wrestling career working as a truck driver and passed away at home on 22nd December after suffering a heart attack. He was 64. Wrestlelamia sends its condolences to Michael Penzel's friends and family. Well guys, there you have it, Wrestlalamia's look at the 22nd December edition of Dynamite, including the good, the bad, and the downright ugly, as well as the latest wrestling news and rumors you need to know. What did you think of tonight's show? Be sure to leave your comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time for some more wrestling content.